It's update time again. Vane has had another new update in 0.024. In this video, I talk through all of the key things you need to know about this update, including the condition rebalance, the introduction of foraging, the changes to first aid, and then I'll be talking about the new map area that's been introduced too. And at the end of the video, whether now is the time for you to jump in and buy Vane if you haven't already. Let's get into it. As always, just a quick note to say that this video calls out the key changes, but not all changes, so please do check the patch notes for the full changelog. First things first, let's talk conditions, and a rebalance to the conditions in the game. Now these are aimed at making the game more difficult, so I'm looking forward to seeing all of your feedback down in the comments below about how you're finding the rebalanced conditions. There's been a host of changes here. Stress has been renamed to happy and sad, with nerfs and buffs dependent on how happy or unhappy your character is feeling. Fall damage has been increased significantly, which is awful news for me given how much I struggle with ladders. You'll now face some more troubles if you're tired, with some nerfs introduced there, and if you're looking to try and sleep whilst panicked, you no longer can. There's also been some rebalancing to thirst, well-fed, poisoned, food poisoning, stimulated, and another load of condition refactors. So it'll be interesting to see how much more of a challenge the game is after this update. Whilst on conditions, another host of conditions you may see if you start your run off with an addiction, or if you drink too much alcohol, ingest too many other substances, or enjoy painkillers a little too much, then you may suffer with an addiction. And should you try and wean yourself back off of said substances, you will suffer from withdrawal. Whilst there's been some addictive substances in the game for a while, addiction has had some missing code, so it's not worked. That has now changed though, so from this update forward, perhaps don't enjoy lighting up too often, hey? In addition to more addiction uniquenesses, there's also been some changes to the couch potato uniqueness, and the devs have added some categorization to uniquenesses in the character creation menus. Still to come, we've got the map expansion, foraging, multiplayer, inventories, and art. But now, let's jump into medical and first aid, which will naturally move us into foraging too. Let's go. First aid has been overhauled in this update. When you get a deep cut, if it gets infected, it will have a percentage attached for severity. Bandages will get dirty, so if you leave a dirty bandage on a wound and don't replace it with a clean bandage, then the chance for infection will be increased. Antibiotics now treat bacterial infections, so should you start suffering from an infection, antibiotics will become your new best friend. To combat the chance of infection, there's also been changes to sterilizers, which now have different strengths in terms of wound disinfection. Still on wounds, suturing will now grant medical XP when you have to suture a wound. There's also been the addition of a new health point bar in the medical menu. Here you can see the health of your character and anything that's either positively or negatively affecting your health. Conditions which have 0 weight will no longer show, so you should only see information that's relevant and actively contributing to health gain or health loss. Finally, in terms of medical or first aid, there's been a whole host of other medications added to the game, including anti-anxiety pills, caffeine pills, and sleep gummies, so there's more options to help you treat any conditions your character is suffering from. Of course, though, these things will be limited. If you play with loot respawn off, then these medical items will eventually run out, or if you're playing on rare loot settings, then these things will be much harder to find, no doubt. So what can you do if you can't find things to help medicate your conditions? Well, let me introduce you to foraging. New to 0.024 is foraging, where you can go out into the wilds, not just to hunt for animals, now you can hunt for harvestable plants. The devs have introduced foraging with the thinking that this will be crucial for late game survival when loot is running low. The plants that are being introduced as part of this update include mugwort, red elderberry, wild blackberries, wild ginger, and more. These plants offer a multitude of different effects and possibilities, from helping with hunger and thirst to having medicinal properties. You can also take your newly foraged plants and cook with them in-game to make more potent recipes. I won't disclose here what each of those items does, as I don't want to provide spoilers, but there may well be a foraging guide coming to the channel soon. As well as foraging being introduced, there's been a new forager perk added to the survivalism skill tree. Moving away from foraging, but staying with nature, 0.024 sees the introduction of plantable trees, starting with apple seeds and apple trees that can now be grown from them. These will provide the player with the ability to grow trees without needing a planter, which you would need for normal crops. In addition to apple trees, there's been some tweaks to fishing too. Fish can now be gutted prior to butchering, providing fish guts consistently, which can then of course be used as bait. Fish will also satisfy hunger according to their weight now, so the bigger the catch, the fuller the belly. Before we get to multiplayer tweaks and fixes, inventory changes, and the new map area, let's briefly chat about art. There's been a number of different art upgrades which are coming as part of this update. Parcels will now be different shapes and sizes, so there's a variation in the parcels found in the game. There's been numerous changes to textures and labels on medical items, new battery materials, a number of texture placeholder updates and changes, as well as the addition of some new golf-related items too. Perhaps to do with a golf course, but you'll have to look at the map segment later on. Moving on to multiplayer, which continues to be an area of focus for the devs, in 0.024 several changes, improvements and fixes are coming to multiplayer. Admins will now be able to see everyone's location on the map. The devs are also adding bot characters so that they can do more multiplayer bug identification and hopefully fix more bugs, as well as work on online beacons for measuring ping. They're also introducing fixes to vehicles not tethering as expected, being killed from hitching vehicles, chat filters not working properly, and they've improved vehicle networking too. The devs have also added a Minecraft-style sleep system to multiplayer and unified the sleep menu between single-player and multiplayer, with a new option to enable or disable whether sleep advances time. The admin menu has now also received the ability to spawn in furniture, something which isn't specific to multiplayer, but will most likely be used by multiplayer hosts to create safe zones, for example. Just before we get to the map expansion, there's some changes to inventories that will overhaul our inventory management from 0.024 onwards. With 0.024 comes the introduction of pseudo-stacking and of sub-inventories. Pseudo-stacking means that if you have multiples of the same items, instead of these all being listed individually and taking up precious inventory screen real estate, these will now stack under one name for the item. You can then click on the item and see the full stack amount of that item if you wish. This will lead to a bit of a cleaner inventory experience, something that's super handy in a game like Vane, where there's so many items to loot. I speak from experience as a veteran apocalypse hoarder. In addition to pseudo-stacking, 0.024 introduces sub-inventories. This now means that for each bag you carry on your person, it will have its own sub-inventory. This will make inventory management even easier, as you could have all of your looted items in your rucksack, for example, and then you can simply take your rucksack off, or empty it all into a container. Additionally, with the introduction of sub-inventories, some bags will have special properties. For example, a waterproof bag could be used to protect your electricals during a particularly bad rainstorm, or perhaps if you plan on taking a dip in the nearest lake. A couple of quick additional callouts which are worthwhile but don't have their own category or fit into anything else we've discussed. A new radio station has been added to 0.024 with more new music from the wonderful Romancer, so please make sure you check this out in game. There's also been an introduction of some new engine sounds for vehicles, including suppression to engine sounds if you're in a vehicle too. There's also been some additional buildables added to the game as well, some extension options for gas, water and electricity to enable players to build things over longer distances, and also a raised campfire has been added which introduces a campfire variant with a larger inventory size. Finally, we're at our last segment before I talk about whether now is the time to jump in if you haven't already. The map expansion. I won't go into too many specifics here in terms of locations and new things to explore, as I'm sure many of you will want to explore the map and find some new things organically. The new map area, called Loon Lake by the devs, is a predominantly forested area. This includes some small hamlets, a bunch of new houses, some more bodies of water, a golf course, the introduction of our first waterfalls in the game, which look awesome as you can see, and some new caves. Importantly and excitingly, we've got the introduction of A-frames in this update too, a totally new house model which looks sick and I'm definitely going to be checking out in my Let's Play series. The new map area will be available to play in the full game as part of this update, but will not be available in the demo as you'll continue to access the smaller demo area there. So with this, the big question is, if you haven't already, is it time to jump into Vane? If you were on the fence as you were waiting for more map expansion, then this could absolutely be the time to jump in. The map will continue to expand, with the dev team targeting a 14-kilometre square map when it's fully developed. Loon Lake, though, obviously adds a good amount more to explore, with more off-grid living possibilities too. If you're waiting for full controller or Steam Deck support, this is still outstanding, so if that's a deal breaker, this hasn't changed yet. If you're waiting for character art to be updated, again, this hasn't changed and isn't likely to in the short term. Work is being done behind the scenes, hear more about this in my Vane Monthly, but this is unlikely to be in the game for some time. I personally am finding myself enjoying Vane, and if the devs continue as they are, it'll only get better. There's still stacks on the roadmap to achieve, and we're still only 8 months into early access. It's also fair to expect that the cost of the game is likely to increase as development continues, so it really does come down to you as to whether you're happy to wait and potentially pay a little bit more, or buy in now and enjoy it as developed. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for Vane news, tips, tricks, challenges, and more, this really is the place to be, so please do subscribe, it helps me out loads. If you're looking to continue your Vane fix, please check out my latest winter tips video, or have a watch of my Let's Play. Until next time, good luck surviving.